The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program number 843, coming to you on Monday the 31st of October 2016. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, the concept of limitation. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments. Firstly, and as usual, I would like to send out my deepest condolences to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. And just today I was hearing of the death of a gentleman I have known since my grammar school days. It goes by the name of Monk Waldron, formerly of Kingstown Park. My condolences to his family. And let me send out get well wishes once again to my dearly beloved sister Nan, which is Deaconess Althea Peters, who has been hospitalized these past few days. Sister Nan, we at St. Elizabeth Church, Belmont, wish you a speedy recovery, and we look forward to having you back with us. May the angels minister to you while you are in the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. Congratulations are in order for St. Vincent's latest bishop. I refer to Bishop Ian Enoch, who was consecrated yesterday afternoon at Mount Carmel Spiritual Baptist Cathedral. I am only so sorry I was not able to be present on that occasion, but my spirit was with you, Brother Ian. And as I said last week, not that you are going, you have really gone places now. Congratulations to you and to all of the brethren of Mount Carmel. Now, let me give you a little advance notice. The 20th of November will be celebrated as Universal Children's Day. The theme for this year's Universal Children's Day is Stop the Violence Against Children. I will be reminding you again next week, Monday, and the Monday after that, DV, that we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines must make our contribution to the international effort to commemorate that special day, Universal Children's Day. And they have chosen a very apt theme, Stop the Violence Against Children. Special activities will be spearheaded by the Ministry of National Mobilization, Social Development, the Family, Gender and Youth Affairs. And I'm sure if you listen to your television and your radio, you will hear more about what are planned for that event. Now, limitation. There is a basic maxim in the law, which was captured centuries ago in the Latin phrase, ius ibi ubi remedium. Translated into English, it means where there is a right, there is a remedy. So the whole concept of law is based on the notion that if you have a right and that right is violated by someone, you have a corresponding remedy available through the judicial system. In other words, you have the opportunity to take the person who has wronged you to court, and you would get justice when you would have taken the person who has wronged you to court, complaining about the wrong that that person has committed against you. But parallel to that concept is also the concept that he who sleeps on his rights loses his rights. He who sleeps on his rights loses his rights. In other words, for you to get redress for the violation of your rights, you have to bestir yourself in a timely manner. And that gave rise to the concept of limitation of actions. The notion of limitation really means this. If somebody has done you a wrong, the law will normally give you a period of time within which you must take steps to have that wrong redressed. So sleeping on your rights means that somebody violates your rights and you do nothing about it. You literally fall asleep. Time passes by. The law says if you want the courts to help you to get your rights observed, and if they are violated, to get them redressed, you have to take steps within a certain period of time. That is what limitation is all about. You are limited to a certain period of time within which, if you want to make a complaint in the courts of law, you have to take action. And if the given time passes and you have done nothing, then you lose the right to do something about it. I'll make it clear by and by. So that if you are injured in a road accident, a motor accident, or any accident for that matter, and you suffer personal injuries, the law gives you 3 years to bring an action against the person or persons whom you allege has caused you to suffer those personal injuries. 3 years. So if you're in a vehicle accident or you're a pedestrian and you are struck on the road and you get personal injuries, 3 years. What if your vehicle is struck and you are not injured, but your vehicle is damaged by the wrongful driving of somebody else or the wrongful use of the road by somebody? Well, if you can prove that that person has been negligent, the law gives you 6 years to sue the person for the alleged negligent act. If you have a contract with someone and the person breaks the contract and you are minded to sue the person for breach of contract, the law says you have to sue the person within 6 years, starting from the date when the contract was breached. If you wait beyond the 6 years, you lose the right to go to court. What if somebody has chased you off your land or has come and has occupied your land as a squatter? The law says if you have actions concerning the possession of land and real property, you have 12 years to come to court to bring an action to complain about somebody having dispossessed you from your land or having committed a wrong against you in terms of the possession of your land. The limitation period is 12 years. What if somebody violates a constitutional right? The law gives you 1 year to complain about that violation. So it is important for you to be advised when you have a grievance against someone as to what length of period you can wait before you bring the action, and beyond which you cannot bring the action in court. From what I have said a while ago, you would know then that there is not one limitation period. There are multiple limitation periods depending on the nature of the complaint you wish to go to the court about. Now, there are technicalities governing the calculation of the time. When does time start from? If the law gives you 6 years to sue somebody for having done something to you, when does the period begin to run? That is important. Once you know the date on which the period starts to run, then you will know the date on which the period ends, because you will simply apply the limitation period to the calculation. So if you have a cause of action in nuisance or negligence or any other tort, 6 years is your limitation period. You know when the wrong was committed, and then 6 years from that. Now, what happens when the time is up? Well, when the time is up, figuratively, the door of the court is closed to you in respect of that specific wrong. So if you don't bring an action within the given limitation period, you can't bring it after the period. But as in most concepts in law, there are exceptions. In the case, for example, of personal injuries, the court has a discretion to give you more time, more than the 3 years in certain circumstances. The court has a discretion, not in every limitation period. Suppose somebody has done something to you and you know nothing about it. Does the period of limitation begin to run from when they did the thing, if you didn't know anything about it? Or does the period run from the date you found out that somebody had done something against you? Well, the law says either from the date when you knew about it or the date when you ought to have known if you had exercised reasonable diligence. So there are technicalities about that, but the basic idea is that once the limitation period has passed, you cannot go to court to complain about something for which that period has been prescribed. If somebody borrows money from you promising to pay back on a certain date. And when that date arrives, the person doesn't keep his promise. Then the limitation period begins to run from the date when the person ought to have paid you the money. So that will be a breach of contract because you would have contracted a loan. And provided the person cannot say, haha, you can't sue me because the contract you made with me was an illegal contract or some other vitiating circumstance, you have 6 years from the date when the contract was broken until when you can bring the case in court. Now, if the 6 years pass and you have done nothing, you can't go a month or a week or even a day after the last day of the limitation period. You cannot file the case, or you file the case, the person will say, ha, bad luck to you. And the person will raise the defense that you have brought the case outside the limitation period. So if you lend somebody money and they don't pay you back, you better take them to court within 6 years. Otherwise, you can't take them to court again after that, not for that same loan. You can take them to court for a different loan if the 6 years are not up, but not for the one that you allow time to pass you by. So that you may go to a lawyer with a problem. You explain to the lawyer that somebody did you something and so on. The lawyer would be careful to ascertain from you what dates the things which you allege were done. And the lawyer would know what would be the limitation period for that kind of complaint. And the lawyer may have to tell you, sadly, sorry, you can't bring a case against the person because the limitation period has expired. And you may say, well, how, I didn't know, blah, blah. The fact that you didn't know that there was a limitation period, the fact that you didn't even know about the concept of limitation doesn't help. That is one case in which ignorance of the law would be no excuse. So you cannot go to court and say, well, if I had known I had to bring a case within a certain time, I would have done so, but I didn't know and I had no way of knowing. Well, the judge would look at you and say, what do you mean you had no way of knowing? You didn't know where to find a lawyer to get advice? So the fact that you didn't know that the limitation period had expired does not help you. Once the period has expired, out you go. Can't go to court. Or if you go to court, well, the clerk at the registry doesn't stop you filing a claim if you want. You can always file a case. But when you serve it on the other person against whom you have filed it, the other person will take it to a lawyer. And the lawyer would look at what you have alleged, and the lawyer would say, well, is it true that this thing happened 7 years ago? And you say, yes, it happened 7 years ago. And the lawyer would say to the defendant, well, he can't, it's too late for him to have brought the case. And the lawyer would file a defense for you saying that the case was filed too late because the limitation period had already expired before the case was filed. And you can jump high or low, that's it. That's it. So the moral of this story is, according to Sparrow, if somebody has done you a wrong, don't wait for years before you go and see a lawyer. Seek legal advice as soon as possible. Otherwise, time will run out on you. The limitation period will run out on you. And you would lose the right. You can't cry and say, oh, it's an injustice. The judge can't help you in most cases, because the judge will not have a discretion to exercise in your favor. The law does not look kindly upon those who sleep on their rights. Take land matters. As you all know by now, you can go and apply for a possessory title to land if you can prove that you have been occupying the land for 12 years or more under certain circumstances. You didn't get permission for it. You are not paying any money to anybody to occupy the land. You occupy the land quite openly. You didn't acknowledge anybody to have a superior right to the land. You are in exclusive possession of the land. You occupy the land, you use the land, you either live there or you work the land, and so on. If you can show all of those things and show that you have been in absolute possession of a parcel of land for more than 12 years, acting as if you are the owner of the land, then if you fulfill the procedural requirements of the Possessory Titles Act, the court itself will grant you a title deed. Now, the land may have belonged to somebody more than 12 years ago. But if, for example, they abandoned the land and went to England or America or Canada, didn't leave anybody to look after the land, to make sure that nobody squatted on the land and the like, if you fulfill the requirements, you will get a title deed because 12 years would have passed. The 12 years represent the limitation period for actions having to do with the possession of land. Now, of course, there are many technicalities again. The real owner of the land may have had a title deed for the land, but having a title deed, if you are not in possession, doesn't really help you. So you can buy a piece of land or buy a property, get your title deed, put it on the tax roll, go away, don't leave anybody in charge of it, and somebody else comes in and occupies it as if they were the owner of it for more than 12 years. You are paying the taxes, mind you. Every year you pay your taxes, you send the money home for somebody to pay the taxes for you. You're not in St. Vincent. Or you send straight to the tax department from England or Canada or wherever you are, paying your taxes year by year. So you have your deed, you have your tax receipts, but you are not in possession of your own property. Somebody else is in possession of your property without your permission. They are squatting there exclusively. After 12 years, it's theirs. So don't think the fact that you are paying land taxes would stop somebody successfully claiming your property after 12 years if that person has been in physical possession and control of your property, exclusively using it as their own. So if you have property in St. Vincent and Grenadines and you're going away, leave somebody in charge of the property. And if anybody wants to stay there and asks you to stay there, let them pay you a rent, even if it is $1 per year. Because the payment of the rent of $1, never mind the smallness of the sum, but the payment of that prevents that person claiming your property as a squatter. they become a tenant, and once they are a tenant, they can't claim your property. Or if you leave somebody in charge of your property and you go away, the person you left in charge can't claim it as a squatter and claim possessory rights because they are there with your permission. It is only if they are not there with your permission, they have no permission to be there, they are pure squatters, then after 12 years, they will claim your property. So if you know any relative who has a property or has land and have left it and gone away and so on, tell them to get up and get before somebody can claim squatters' rights, that is 12 years adverse possession, and get a title deed for the property that you have a title deed for. Your title deed is only good if you are in possession either personally or through somebody else, or if you don't leave the property for more than 12 years. You can leave it for 11 years and 360 days, that is 5 days short of 12 years, and come back fine. Nobody can claim under the 12 years. Again, if you get a judgment against somebody, the law gives you 6 years to enforce the judgment. So the limitation period for enforcing a judgment is 6 years from the date of the judgment. If it's a money judgment, so the person was supposed to pay you $3,000 and they paid $1,000 and didn't pay any more, the limitation period runs from the date when they paid the $1,000. If they paid other installments, the limitation period runs from the date of the last installment. So if you are in a situation where you have a right and somebody has violated the right, seek legal advice right away, to use a pun. Don't wait. Find out from a lawyer what period of time you have before you can take this matter to court. Finally, sending a lawyer letter to somebody doesn't stop the period of limitation running. So it doesn't matter how many lawyer letters you send. It doesn't matter how many times you got somebody to tell the person to get off my property. The only thing that stops the limitation period running is filing a case in court. The day you file is the day when, for limitation purposes, you have brought an action. So sending a lawyer letter isn't bringing an action. Threatening action isn't bringing an action. It's when you actually file the case and have it served in due course. All right? Very fascinating concept. Many people think it's encouraging of dishonesty. Yes, there are cases where people are openly dishonest and they manipulate the situation and then claim rights against you by subterfuge. That happens. But the law gives you a reasonable length of time. I mean, 12 years for land is a long time. 6 years for contract and tort, fairly long time. 3 years personal injuries, fairly long time. The law gives you a lot of time, but use the time wisely. Don't let the time pass by and then complain when somebody has taken advantage of you. All right? Fascinating concept, limitation. But there it is. So that is all from this program of The Law and You. I look forward to being of further service to you next week, Monday, DB, for another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. Do have a very pleasant week, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, and may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel R. Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.